Yo, what's going on YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we are taking a look today at a more of a personal video. So make sure to check out, I posted this morning my current favorite NHL logos. Make sure to check out that video and the rest of our content here at Goal Line Hockey. But today we're going to do something a little different. So we're going to go over, I'm going to rank all the NHL arenas that I've been to. Now, it's still a pretty small list, to be completely honest. I've only been to 6 NHL level arenas to watch a hockey game. So we're going to start off at 6 and work our way down. So number 6 on the list, the good thing about living in the New York metro area is I could easily knock off a bunch of teams, and I've been able to do that. So at number 6, and now to be fair, I have not been to the Prudential Center in a couple of years, but at number 6 is the New Jersey Devils Prudential Center. So, I think the most frustrating part about the Prudential Center is the way it's situated. It's right in the middle of Newark, New Jersey. Some people have their thoughts about that. I'm not going to get into that today, but that's not the point of the video. It's, the accessibility definitely hinders this logo. I know they have parking and stuff outside the arena. Not a huge fan of that. I'd probably only go back if I could get in the parking garage that kind of bridges to the arena. But that was one of the things I had against it. Overall, other than that, this is a really nice stadium. I've been there for Halloween. They had it's the Devils, right? So New Jersey, that whole atmosphere of, kind of going with the rock theme. Obviously they have their Bruce Springsteen, love him or hate him. Bruce Springsteen is always featured during a Devils game. They play a lot of like AC/DC, which is obviously one of, personal favorites of mine. So that kind of, goes along with me, and obviously running with the Devil and Hell's Bells and all that stuff. It just fits the Devils vibe. And that is something that I dig about Prudential Center. It's a smaller arena, which does give it a little bit of a setback, but it's still a very big arena, no doubt about it. And it was one of the first versions of the modern arena. So I have to give credit where it's due there. I really do like this one. But again, in terms of what I've been to, again, there's stiff competition there, and that's unfortunately why Prudential Center is at 6, but I do really like their stadium. Their food is pretty good. They've got kind of like Jersey Shore type of foods at the arena. They obviously have like hoagies and stuff like that. But Prudential Center, I definitely want to go back because that is an arena that, I'd love to see the Islanders pick up a dub in New Jersey. That's always fun. But I think I definitely have to make my way back there very soon. So that's at number 6, and we'll see. Maybe that gets updated. At number 5, again, this isn't fair because in terms of facilities, it's nowhere near Prudential Center. But again, personal, number 5 is the New York Islanders, Nassau Coliseum. So yes, facility-wise, it's not even close. If I had to put Prudential Center versus Nassau Coliseum, it's no doubt Prudential Center. But Nassau Coliseum, I've got that attachment to that arena. I went to my first hockey games there. I went to my first playoff game there. Just the amount of memories I've had at that arena. I grew up at Nassau Coliseum, and as much as it was a dump, it was my dump. And I remember the days of going there as a kid, and just that means so much more to me than the Prudential Center does. And that's the only reason for that. But Prudential Center, is still very nice. But Nassau Coliseum, just some of the, again, you consider the fact that the Islanders won. That was their dynasty home, right? That was Fort Never Lose. And that was something that, really resonates and really kind of just puts it in perspective. Like, that was the golden years of the New York Islanders during that time. And it just kind of a time capsule, that Nassau Coliseum, and a lot of good memories there. But obviously it is still number 5 on the list just because it was a dump. But sentimental reasons, it definitely got a little bit of attention. Number 4, again, the Islanders' new arena, the New York Islanders UBS Arena, as at number 4. So why is it so low? So it's not that it's a bad arena. I like how it's closed off, a lot different than the Prudential Center, because you have to remember the Prudential Center is in the middle of the city. UBS Arena is kind of on its own plot. And what's nice about that is it's gated in, it's secure, got good security. So, yeah, you have to walk like 10, 20 minutes depending on which parking lot you get. Um, but it's a lot safer walking that 5, 10, 15 minutes than it is in Newark at 9:30 at night, 10 o'clock at night. So again, if I had to choose between just that definitely is the difference there. But it is still a little bit tough, in terms of accessibility. Now they are creating parking garages, and maybe that'll change. I might have to try that this year. But I'm having a hard time with UBS, and the reason I think too for that is the fact that the Islanders didn't do much winning when I went there. I went to a lot of tough games. I went to the Colorado game. They kind of came back. They lost to Tampa there. They lost in the first game I went to against San Jose. And the last game I've been there, I still have that scar over my chest, losing to the Rangers like 7-4 or something like that. I try to block that one out of my brain, but UBS Arena is a very nice building. The food is all right, but it's super expensive. It is super, super expensive, and that's one thing that I would critique compared to all these other arenas. Like, I went to 3 NHL arenas this year, and I'll get to that later on. And of the 3 arenas I went to this year, the most expensive for the same kind of food was the Islanders. UBS Arena was the most expensive. And again, it's a new facility. I understand that. But it's one of the smaller rinks in the NHL. And again, I don't have that attachment to it yet, and that might be part of the reason as well. They do have the cool ice projection, which Nassau Coliseum, God, that was never going to have. So yeah, UBS at 4. Number 3, this was a couple of years back. I want to say it was 2016, and that's when I went to Washington, D.C. to watch the Washington Capitals play the New York Islanders. Back when John Tavares was on the Islanders, I was a family trip. It was a lot of fun. It was still Verizon Center at the time. It's now, Capital One Arena. I really liked the Verizon Center when we went down there. I don't know. Again, it's been 6 years since I've been there, and obviously they've had a name change, so things have probably changed since then. But pretty accessible in the district. The trains are a little annoying in DC, but again, I guess as long as you're used to that kind of transportation and using the rails, it's not that bad using the subways. But that was a little bit confusing. But the arena has its own spot, like on the train thing, so you could just go right up, and Verizon Center's right there. All the people down there were very friendly. It was a good time, and that's a big building. I was not used to that with the Nassau Coliseum. That was the second NHL building I'd ever gone to, other than Nassau Coliseum. So that was a shocker to me, going to a stadium like Verizon Center, and it was definitely pretty cool. I need to make a voyage back down there. There's a couple of other places I'd like to go to though, so it's not at the top of the list, but maybe on the way down to, say, Carolina or something like that, maybe I could take a trip down to DC. The problem is though, the traffic down there is a pain in the butt. So we'll see how long it takes. Maybe I'll make my venture down there soon, but we'll see what happens. So now I move up to the top 2. So number 2 is an arena that I've recently gone to during COVID. And again, I've had good memories here because my Islanders are, I think, 3-0 with shutouts against the New York Rangers here. And that is MSG, Madison Square Garden. Beautiful building. Really enjoy going to MSG. Just the history of the building, just, the aesthetic is a little different being in New York. But it does have its drawbacks, and especially if you've never been in New York and you're going to a Ranger game, you do have to consider some of these things, especially if you're taking the transit. Obviously, living on Long Island, I take the LIRR. It always seems like the trains purposely are always right after the game. So if the convenience is a little bit of a pain, because if the game goes to overtime, you might have to wait an hour till the next train comes in. And that's kind of frustrating. That is something that I'm not used to with UBS Arena and Nassau Coliseum. As an Islander fan, you just drive back home. No big deal. But with Madison Square Garden, it's a little bit more difficult and less accessible if you're from Long Island. but the train is very reliable. It's very good. But there is a lot of poverty. I'll just put it that way. Just going from Madison Square Garden down to the train. And that is something that I've seen consistently. I went to 3 or 4 Ranger games this year. It is very expensive, but that's to be expected. It's a beautiful venue. The food is kind of expensive. Not as expensive, though, as UBS Arena, just down the road. But Madison Square Garden, I went to my first playoff game in the first round, Game 5 against Pittsburgh. That was really sick, going to a Ranger playoff game. Never done that. So that was a lot of fun. And that definitely boosted them up to number 2. Because during the regular season, right, it wasn't that crazy. And then you go to a playoff game, it was a totally different vibe. It was really cool. Even Kreider calling it the concrete, or what do you call it? The jungle, not MSG. Not the garden, it's the jungle. I really like that. Really nice to see the Rangers doing well. Even as an Islander fan, it is good to see that rivalry breeding well and seeing New York teams do well. So I put the Rangers here at number 2. Their, what is it called? The Garden Burger. Really nice burger. I like going there and getting the Garden Burger. No matter how my stomach feels afterward, for what you get, it's a pretty nice setup there. And I definitely want to make a trip back there next season. And then at number 1, again, this is the newest edition here, and I did that during the winter time. I think it was February or March this year. I made my first voyage to Philadelphia to watch the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, circumstance is a part of this. Now, you have to remember, I'm accounting for the fact that the Flyers were terrible this year. I got 7 rows up behind the Flyers bench, and it was $50 a ticket because nobody was going to the games. And, that was kind of tough, right? The fans were definitely frustrated, and they were most of the Flyers fans wanted to go to the Grateful Dead concert before the game, more so than they wanted to actually watch the Flyers play. So I thought that was very interesting. It was my first time ever in Philly. Say what you will about Philly, but in my very brief time there, I did enjoy it. I was only in there for the game, and that was it. I didn't even stay the night. I didn't stick around too long. The traffic wasn't too bad. It could have been definitely way worse, but it wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. The New Jersey, what is it? Whatever the turnpike is right by Wells Fargo Arena to take you into Philly, very easy to get to, pretty easy to navigate. So in that sense, not too bad. I definitely want to take a trip back there this year just to see if the vibe will be a little different. But yeah, I went to the point where Giroux was on his way out. The team was kind of half dead at that point. But I really have to say the presentation of the arena, when you first step into a new arena, you get that wow factor, right? And, Wells Fargo Arena does that. And, that arena, when I stepped in there for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this is a big building. This is a pretty cool setup. I would definitely want to play here if I was a National Hockey League player. And I know why players go to Philadelphia. It is really sick. Never knew that they had that fire that goes off by the scoreboard. You feel that. I was in the 7th row up, but you feel that heat on you. I definitely could have cooked a marshmallow a couple of times during that game. It was just incredible. Again, I understood the circumstance that the team wasn't very good. I got really good seats. Obviously, you get the Chicky and Pete's when you're in Philadelphia. That's a no-brainer. You grab the crab fries every time. No second thoughts. So that's kind of my experience. Overall, I like all the arenas I've been to. And I hate putting the Devils last because it is a really, I don't think I'm doing it justice. That is a very nice building. But this is kind of where we're at right now. I think that, I don't know, maybe because the Flyers, it just resonates because that's the most recent new building I've been to. It just really resonates. But that one really shocked. Maybe I just wasn't expecting that much. But it's one of the top 3 biggest arenas in the league, I'm pretty sure. I think, who's ahead of them? I think it's Montreal, and they might be second or third in the league. You guys will obviously let me know. But just, you realize, it's 4 levels of seats. 4 levels of stadium seating. It is incredibly big. Huge stadium. Too bad they couldn't fill the seats. But that's the way things went. So let me know what arenas you guys have been to. What's your favorite NHL arena? in the National Hockey League? Let me know down below. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.